Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. On behalf of the ASLO Awards Committee, I want to thank the nominators and especially the subcommittee, which will show up here in a second, for their effort on this particular award. The Ramón Margalef Award for Excellence in Education is awarded each year to recognize outstanding teaching and mentoring in the fields of limnology and oceanography. This year's award winner is a dedicated educator who has led Bigelow Laboratories' Keller Bloom program since 2005, which has introduced over 560 high school students to hands-on marine science experiences, many who have gone on to do great things in STEM. She also co-founded the Bloom Educators Program, providing 110 teachers with resources and training in ocean sciences and helped them bring that into the classroom. And if that wasn't enough, in addition, she has mentored numerous scientists in the field of biological oceanography. To quote a colleague, the award winner, quote, uses science to energize and excite students, but also teachers who can take this sense of wonder and use it to inspire the next generation of scientists. It's my great pleasure to present the 2005 Ramón Margalef Award for Excellence in Education to Dr. Nicole Poulton.
Oh, you hold it.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's been a huge honor to receive this award today. Sorry, getting a little bit clamped. But it's really about empowering the next generation. So there's numerous students in the audience that probably know me, or I have taught them over the years, and it's a huge honor to be here and talk about teaching that next generation. I have to thank the nominations committee, whom was just listed up on the screen, and also the nominators who made this all possible for me. And I also want to thank all of you who are in the room here, the ASLO members, the people, my colleagues that I actually work with day in and day out. I'm going to talk about a lot of education, my educators, the students I work with, but it wouldn't be remiss if I did not personally want to thank all those students that are out there, because a lot of my time is spent doing education, and I truly spend a lot of time with these students, and it is really a very rewarding experience to see them succeed, move on, even get PhDs, and actually have positions in science. This is just a small snapshot of some of the students that I have had the privilege of working with over the years, hundreds, as was mentioned before by Liz. And so I truly want to thank them. I would be remiss if we did not talk about the actual award, Ramón Margalef. He was an amazing scientist, a field ecologist, even a pioneer in the whole ecological theory, and near and dear to my own heart, he is also a planktonologist, and so I'm a phytoplankton ecologist, which I'll tell you in a moment, but he's also a naturalist and an educator, a true born. He also really envisioned the use of hands-on experiential learning. And here he is actually in a laboratory with his students and as a naturalist out there when he was very young in 1948. There's also many other awardees over the years. This award has been given out since 2009, and I'd like to acknowledge many of them I work with very closely in this room, and I would really be remiss if I was not able to acknowledge their presence in all of the things that they have had the privilege of doing and contributing to science as a whole. So for those of you who do not know me, I'm also a phytoplankton and microbial ecologist, and I wear 3 hats at my laboratory. So I have a research arm where I basically spend a lot of time looking at phytoplankton, and I also run and direct a facility called the Center for Aquatic Cytometry. And then 1/3 of my time is spent with all my students out there in education. So my research has really spent a lot of time looking at phytoplankton time series. I'm going to talk about a little bit of the importance of those a little later, but however, I'm not going to be talking about my science today. I talk a lot about mixotrophy. There was a great session that I attended earlier this week. And I'm also very interested and have worked and just recently funded to look at the ocean color instrument pace validation and using tools such as flow cytometry to actually identify and work with phytoplankton in the field. So I want to talk about who gave me the inspiration and the mentorship that I have and are interested in. Well, speaking of NASA and my work with the pace validation, which is the new satellite for ocean color instrument that's just been deployed as of last year, I had the privilege in my undergraduate career to work with Gene Feldman at NASA, working on the coastal zone color scanner data, the very first ocean color instrument. And went on to do some work with John Waterbury and Freddie Wawa at the Woods Hole Oceanographic, and really clinching my interest in picocyanobacteria. And then I had the great privilege to working with Penny Chisholm at MIT for a few years, and she was also on my thesis committee, and she was the one that introduced me to flow cytometry, and that's how I really became a cytometrist, is through her work. There we go. This is my PhD advisor. I also had the ability to take the tools that I learned in Penny's lab and attribute those to Don Anderson's lab looking at harmful algal blooms. And then I ended up at Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences working with Dr. Mike Siraki, and where I really got the use and the privilege to work with many of my colleagues here in the room to develop tools and instrumentation to be able to use that to study phytoplankton. So these were my mentors. Now at Bigelow Laboratory, I had the opportunity, being a small nonprofit and non-academic research organization, we have to sort of think outside the box a bit more. To do that, we have education that's very immersive and experiential in nature. So we really get students out into the field, and this immersive program is all about doing, using your hands, getting your hands wet, and then using that to observe what's going on in the natural world, especially with regard to phytoplankton, and then thinking about that, interpreting, analyzing that data, and then being here in these sorts of environments and communicating that science to others. Those are the tools that you are going to use and need as a scientist, and we sort of convey that to our students at Bigelow Laboratory. Liz mentioned that I direct the Keller Bloom program at Bigelow Laboratory. It has been ongoing since the 1990s specifically. We are in our 35th year of the program, and it's really an immersive program where we bring high school students to the lab free of charge with the goals of giving them this immersive experience, but really establishing a collaboration between students and scientists. And also conveying that message basically about the foundations of life, especially in the microbial world, and how those are attributing to oceans or global ocean health. The person that actually started this was not myself, Dr. Maureen Keller. She is no longer with us, but she developed and initiated this program in 1999. And she was a huge and leading advocate for students and giving them this experience. She had the sort of the brainchild to make this happen. And it was her expertise in growing phytoplankton. I don't know how many of you have used K media out there. The K stands for Keller. She developed that for growing oligotrophic ocean phytoplankton. So the Bloom program, actually Bloom does not stand for phytoplankton bloom. It actually stands for Bigelow Laboratories Orders of Magnitude. It's very challenging to convey to students how important things that they cannot see in the water column are. So we have to spend time talking about a single milliliter of water, which is actually teeming with life, and be able to convey that so that they can understand that there's these different scales of biology that lead to us to be able to look at these organisms from space and understand their distributions on a global scale. We do this by looking at these orders of magnitude, starting with the basics, chemical, physical parameters, and working our way up the food chain and allowing them to appreciate how important these organisms are in the natural world. Really, as I said, the program outcomes is that we establish a relationship with these students. We see these students again. We see them here at meetings like this, and we've planted that seed early on in their careers. This is something that's very critical and needed. And basically, with that research experience, sometimes it's what they want to do and they go on, and some students realize that may not be what they want to do, and that is okay as well. So it's really generating, and the data that they generate from these programs is amazing and actually can be used by educators and scientists. We have long-term time series that are generating from these programs. So Liz mentioned how many students had been through the program. So to date, we've had over 560 students go through this from the state of Maine. The color shading that you see here on this graph is really about the density of population in the state of Maine. And what we're trying to do, and as we try to do, the population is very, very little in the central part of Maine, so we always try to bring more students from those, if we can, to rural communities, bringing them to the coast. In a longitudinal study that we did a few years ago, basically 97 to 100% of these students attend college, so it's about 97%. They received STEM degrees, about 62% of them, and they continue on pursuing a career in science, which is a huge accomplishment of this program. So with that, how can we foster a more science and environmentally literate public? So this is something we were talking about yesterday, or what Mike Pace brought up. Basically, how can we communicate and really establish scientific principles in our youth? So something that we worked on and wanted to try and implement, and we heard back from educators that are communicating with us, is that we need to educate the educators. In Maine especially, there's a huge turnover of teachers. It's basically people teaching science, they know the basics, but how to teach it more effectively, how can we help them teach it better? So we provided a professional development program at Bigelow Laboratory, which I would encourage you to have some thoughts on how you might be able to take some of your science and convey that to either your local high school, or encourage teachers to come on ships, for example, which would be amazing. This began in 2010. It's a program, again, that's free for participation. We raise funding primarily through philanthropic dollars. And we provide education and curriculum pieces that they can use and tools that they can take back to the classroom. This enables teachers to teach the students about the aquatic sciences in the classroom. And we have a collaboration with many of these teachers. These teachers come back to the laboratory with their students, and we give tours, we do day-long demonstrations with those courses. So it's an exchange, a communication exchange. They really convey the importance, or we try to convey that importance of plankton to the larger biogeochemical cycles. But the foundation of this has really been given on a 20-year program that's been ongoing, that basically driven by ocean literacy. Some of you I know about this because it's been around for about 20 years now. And the importance of ocean literacy in the classroom is, I cannot say enough words about it. In a recent joint statement, literally just a couple weeks ago, the National Teachers Association as well as the National Marine Educators Association did a joint statement about ocean literacy and how can we create a more literate public. So to be scientifically and environmentally literate, you really do need to understand the oceans and to be ocean literate, because they're very linked to one another. The teaching and learning about ocean is essential to overcome terrestrial bias. So a lot of the curriculum that's done in the classroom is land-based. So we can instill these oceanic principles, bring them into the classroom, and allow more students to learn about the ocean. And in this case, everyone lives within an ocean watershed. So ocean literacy is also a pathway to equity and ocean justice. If we can package ocean curriculum into the classroom and bring that into intercity school, rural environments, basically just to get some exposure about the oceans or aquatic sciences in general, we've won. Inland Maine, which I showed you previously, has numerous lakes, and teachers are easily exposed to those and can use those as aquatic environments to study the same principles that we would use in the ocean. It's also critical to understanding climate. As I was saying, these long-term time series, ones that I develop in my own laboratory and what these students are using, can help to study and look at changes in even their own environment. They collect their own data. We should be including these sorts of things in these curriculum pieces. So what I'd like to do and end with is really get involved. Use either ocean literacy to try and understand more. We have every 2 years, we have a summit that meets, and this one's actually meeting in Maine this coming year. And it's celebrating the 20 years that we've had in this terms of ocean literacy. And so I would encourage you to do that. And also I just want to thank overall, there's a huge village that it takes to put these programs together and a huge amount of dollars that need to be raised. However, as I said, philanthropic sources is a good way of doing this. We have been privileged to get federal funds to do some of this as well, but it does take a village. And so with that, I would really like to encourage everyone here in the room to support the students that are here at this meeting this afternoon. There are 2 oral sessions and a poster session, and I would encourage you to attend their talks because that is our future, especially within this society, and we want to encourage them as much as possible and support them as much as possible. So with that, thank you very much.